Welcome to the Ranchonomics podcast, where we empower you to build a better ranch and transform your operations into a thriving business. I'm your host, John Haskell. Let's get started. All right, Wally Olson, welcome to the Ranchonomics podcast. It's great to have you back again, my friend. How are you?
Very good. Very, very good.
We just had the wonderful opportunity to spend a week together down south in Alabama along the beach in Orange Beach, Alabama, and always thrilled to enjoy your company and spend time together and talk about ideas. So I am looking forward to this week's podcast. I want to talk about relative value. We are recording this in March of 2025 when markets are fairly high. And I think the board is futures are over 280, fats for feeders, fats are over $2. I keep hearing people talk about how high the markets are. Everybody wants to sell cows. What do we need to be thinking about? Let's talk about relative value.
So to me, they're never too high or never too low. It's just the relationships that are involved. And, I'm proceeding to go to grass now with some steers I gave $2,000 for. And if you would have ever told me that I was going to go to grass with a $2,000 steer, I would have said, there ain't no way that'll work. And wouldn't have been for a young man that I work with saying that you ought to look at it, I would have missed it because I knew in my mind there was no way that'll work, and it works, and it's a very good investment. Now, with that said, you need to understand the risk that you're gathering up here.
Yep. The importance of understanding relative price is what kind of drives everything. So let's talk about your steer situation specifically, because I think $700 steers at $3, the numbers just kind of make you shiver a little. But let's walk through the specifics of that, and then we'll talk a little more generally.
Well, what I'm going to talk about in some ways is not true sell-by marketing, but the way I look at it, it is, and, I'm going to buy a load of these steers, and I'm going to lay the risk off, or I'm going to sell them. And then I'm going to buy another load and sell it, and buy another load and sell it. I don't know for sure how I'm going to do it, whether I use the LRP or just hedge them or, do puts and calls. I don't know for sure, but I will lay the risk off. And the reason is, you can, we're getting these cattle bought for around 280, and you can hedge them for 280. And like Gordon Hazard said, if you buy one for a certain price and sell one for a certain price, you can figure out the value gain real easy. And on these cattle, it happens to be 280, and it is under $8.
There's no price slide as you go up in weight, basically.
And the cost of doing this, since we're sitting here in the middle of March, we've got just a little winter, and then it's $150 grass bill. And it just looks like a wonderful deal to me. So these $2,000 steers, even the $3 700-pound steer is not overvalued.
Love it. Okay. And this is where it becomes important, where people see $3, for example, and they just panic. And I think we've seen bred cows and pairs in Canada, for example, selling for $5,000. And we are seeing numbers we are not accustomed to. And the very important thing is that number doesn't matter. It only matters what you compare it to. Is that a fair summary?
That's a very correct summary. And
we need to learn to work in a wide variety of prices by comparing prices, not by looking at the absolute price.
That's correct. And just like you talked about cows and calves, I do the cow bell curve comparing a bred cow to a heifer calf. And if you do that comparison, it's still very good. And you can pick up cash doing this. And to offset, everybody's so worked up about, the crisis coming. And there's people that have sold their cows that they shouldn't have sold the cows because they're a very good investment to have. The calves are, there's such a huge margin in these calves, but you got to understand that with this run up in the market, when it goes the other way, you're going to, and if you let a cow get old, you're going to have depreciation going on and also deflation, which back in 2014 to 16, we sold $3,500 young black cows. And 3 or 4 years later, those 3,500 young black cows, when they were culled, they were only worth $680. That is a huge amount of depreciation and deflation.
Yep. Yeah, that's both the market working against you and you managing the life cycle of that animal badly, right?
Correct. And so you need to just be aware of it. Don't fear the downturn in the market. Be prepared to utilize it.
Yep. One thing I want to emphasize that is a trend I've noticed and which other good authors have written about is that we've talked about the fact that the market will go down. A number of people have said, it has to go down, blah, blah, blah. But the timing of that is always slow to me. People think the market's going to go up or should go up for a long time before it actually does go up. And then often people think the market should go down for a long time before it does go down. Greed and fear drive these cycles, as Bud used to teach us. And what's amazing is it doesn't follow the pattern as we think we should. And the timing matters. But most of all, the timing matters because we should ignore the timing because the timing is always wrong. And so if you had bet last summer on the market crashing, you might have, picked up some hope in the fall when prices were soft. And then those hopes might have been dashed when the market ran up again in November and December. I think one thing we cannot do is predict the future. We do have an idea that the market will go down at some point, but there's no reason why it couldn't double from where it is currently if we looked at, the feeder board or something between now and the time it does decide to drop. Is that fair?
That's fair. But if I am a betting person that we are approaching the top. Now, we may stay here for a long time.
But you don't know that. You're guessing, right?
Yep, I'm guessing. Like I said, the price really doesn't matter. It's the relationships, and you just got to keep doing the relationships and taking advantage of the spreads between your classes of animals.
Yep. Let's review the basics because, again, back to that relationships. Bud used to teach this very specifically, and I really liked the way he talked about it. And he used to talk about the fact that we sell an animal to generate cash flow, right?
Correct.
And we would buy back, essentially to stay in business.
Something that you found that's undervalued.
Yep. And so we would sell an overvalued animal, use that to generate cash flow, and then use part of the proceeds from that to purchase an animal back so that we could do that again. If we just sell and stay out of the market, we are effectively out of business. And if the market goes up or the market goes down, then we don't participate at all in that if we are not in the business. Is that fair?
The only time you sell is when you find something to buy back that's undervalued, and then you sell.
And that creates positive cash flow or profit at that point, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. So again, the dollar value might scare us, might excite us, might terrify us. But what's important is the spread. And over again, we've seen when markets go up, there are pretty clear signals about what you should be buying and selling. And the cool thing, I think, right now is that there's enough volatility in the market that there are lots of opportunities to create cash flow, to create big spreads, if you will, in these price relationships and capture those. Whereas here a month or so, around the first of the year, things got kind of flat. The volatility was a little lower. It was a little harder to peck around and find them. They were there, but man, they're there in spades right now. Would you agree?
That's correct.
And people are getting emotional. And I think there are people making decisions that maybe they shouldn't be making right now. Is that fair?
Fair. The only thing that should be made in your decision is the math.
And we kind of stay slow and steady right into this thing so that we just keep making good decisions and we let those price relationships tell us what our next move should be.
To me, the biggest problem with high prices, if you're in the stocker business, is that the prices have gone up, so you can, in theory, on a fixed amount of capital, you can only run half as many animals now. You need to be aware of that. Whereas in the cow-calf business, you got this factory purchased, and they're just going to keep churning out revenue because there's such a high margin right now in the cow-calf business, if you got your costs under control.
Yeah, and if you can't make money at $4 and $5 calves, we probably have a cost problem. Is that fair?
We probably have a problem.
Or an animal performance problem. All right, very good. What else do we want to talk about with regard to relative prices? because I think that, again, is one of the things we do see. Your purchasing power is diminished. And we probably have some additional risk from things like death loss, because when a $2,100 animal dies, it is more expensive than when a $680 animal dies. That's just part of the game.
That's just part of the game, and you just got to, allow for it.
Yep. What else do we need to be thinking about with relative price?
Well, one thing with them being this high, you need to be focused on turnover. And when you can only run half as many cattle because of capital restraints, the way you make up for that is turning them over more often, using that same capital 2 or 3 times a year rather than just once a year.
Yep. And again, I think the market's given us some really good opportunities to do that with the volatility that we've seen the last 2-3 months. Would you agree?
I would agree. And the market is always, until you only have one cow in the pen, one of them's going to be overvalued to the other.
Yep.
Till we get down to just one cow, we're all right, because we can just keep trading.
Because there's something to compare it to.
There's something to compare it to. Yep.
I love it. Okay. Again, we hear lots of forecasting. We hear lots of people trying to tell us about the future. What is the most important thing to remember is that we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. It could all come crashing down tomorrow, and we could get run over by a bus next week. This thing could go on for another year. We don't know.
Or 2 years or 3 years.
That's exactly right.
If you listen to the people, the biological process of the cow herd to rebuild it, it's 2 or 3 years down the road. But they also said the same thing in 2015, that we had 2 or 3 years down the road, and here came 16. So,
yep. And just because they were wrong then doesn't mean they're wrong now, does it?
Nope, it doesn't mean anything. You just need to do the math and deal with today.
Yep. One trend I notice is that I've never seen a macroeconomist who is just richer beyond belief, because he's followed all his own predictions and every one of them's worked out. All of those guys talk about the future, and no insult to them. It's a tough job, but they all talk about the future and they all get it wrong. So, as our friend Don Day likes to say, if you bat 400 in the major leagues, you make it to the Hall of Fame, and most of us aren't Hall of Fame. So, cool. Well, Wally, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate your thoughts on this. Really appreciate you helping keep my mind straight as markets churn around and as things get expensive. And your reminder to just continually do the math is a good one. And I'd like to pass that along to everybody else and make sure that we're making good decisions based on real information, not just guessing, not emotional reactions, that sort of thing. So, Wally, do you have any classes coming up? You're doing some online marketing classes now, right?
We have no schools planned right now. The next class in ranching.fyi is coming up in July, I believe.
Excellent. And I'm going to give you a chance. We had a discussion the other night. I want to add on to this. When somebody takes a Ranching for Profit school, how many times should they take it?
They should take it at least twice.
Okay. And why is that?
2 different instructors, because you mentally aren't prepared to handle all the information that's coming to you.
Yep, it's a lot of info, and I think we agree it's the same with a sell-by marketing class, right?
Yes.
You plan to take that class multiple times and go look for different instructors.
That's correct, because I promise you, whoever the second instructor you go to will be better than the first instructor.
Because the groundwork will have been laid.
Yes, and it's pretty much all the same. Contrary to what some people believe, it's just simple math, and you got 2 tools, or basically 3 tools to work with. You got the cattle square, which gives you the relationships and value of gain. You got the cow bell curve that gives you the relationships of the cow, bred cow to a colt cow and to a heifer calf. And then you got the intrinsic value of a cow, which tells you real quickly whether she is overvalued or undervalued. And that's the 3 main tools.
And those are the tools that are going to allow you to know how to make a good decision.
That's correct.
Love it. Okay, sounds good. Well, like we've talked about many times, we value education. I think getting that education, and especially at times like now, that education really has an opportunity to pay off. So I am very thankful always for the wonderful mentors and things that I have learned over the course of my career, and it is a lot of fun to share that with other people. So thank you very much, Wally, for taking me under your wing years ago and continuing to knock me around when I need it.
Very good.
Hey, one other piece, Wally. We are getting together on Monday mornings every week. Do you want to talk about that on ranching.fyi?
Yes, on ranching.fyi, we have what we call the market pulse, and it's an hour visit about what the markets are doing. And it's a Zoom meeting. It's live. You can ask questions. We try to bring something that we're interested in sharing, and it costs you $10 a month. And if you aren't happy, I'll give you your $10 back. So come join us. There's a lot of really good people on there.
Yeah, we've been averaging over 50 people a week on that call and had some great discussion. People have kind of gotten to know each other a little bit and gotten less shy and have more stuff to share. And you're going to go find that at ranching.fyi. You're going to look in the intelligence forums, or the forums for short, and you're going to go look for the sell by marketing forum. And there's lots of good discussion on the forum itself and then the link to that weekly call. So if you have any questions, get in touch with ranching.fyi and show up on Monday morning to see what other people are thinking about, to learn from each other and to maybe receive some reassurance in our current market environment. So great. Well, thank you, Wally. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon. Struggling to break into the tight-knit world of ranching? Connect, compete, and grow with our new networking platform. Real ranchers, real insights, real opportunities. Visit ranching.fyi and click forums. Thank you for tuning into the Ranchonomics podcast. We hope this episode helped you win today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with a friend.